having
We're
Zahir.
live.
I've not heard from. Oh. Hello there, fight fans. Welcome once again to another episode of the Friday Night Panel. Joining me, I've got Mike, I've got Derek, and I've got Christian, and we are ready to rumble.
Oh, God.
All right.
Careful, don't want to get sued by Michael Buffer over that one.
Well, we
add to that 400 million.
Yeah, Michael was the subject of the Neil the Deal episode earlier, and it was something that came to mind. Sorry about that, Michael. Sorry about that, Mike. All right.
I don't mind.
Who has to rumble first?
Christian, you got a good history lesson for us today?
All right.
Yeah,
Christian.
I got like a history tidbit for us today. I want to talk a little because we have been talking a little bit of Olympics, and we've been talking amateur versus pro fighting, and one of the biggest differences is the length of the fight, that 3-round, 3 minutes. In the amateurs versus much longer fights in the pros. So I started looking at some longer fights, and I came across a fun little history tidbit here. Right? So I want to take you guys back in time, if you will, to the 17th of April, 1860. Now this was the first. This was the first. We'll call it a world championship boxing match, and it took place in an open field in southern England. Okay. So the fighters were the 25-year-old All-American champion John Carmel Heenan and England's Tom Titch Sayers, who was 34, and described on posters as the small, clever little ring general, and weighing in at 149 pounds and standing only 5'8", he would have to be, seeing as Heenan was standing 6'2" and tipping the scales at 195 pounds. Now, the reason I put the first world champion in brackets earlier is because this was actually a bare knuckle fight, which was illegal. It was. But this didn't stop a huge crowd from showing up in this field in this village of Farnborough, just outside of Hampshire. Many of the spectators having arrived by special trains brought up from London. And this wasn't just, the commoners making noise. No, notable toffs said to be in attendance and to have witnessed this fight are said to include Charles Dickens, William Thackeray, as well as the Prime Minister, Henry John Temple, and a then 18-year-old prince who would go on to become King Edward VII.
Wow.
As well as the press. Now, again, illegal fight. Keep that in mind. So the press were there and they reported, and they said, as the contender stripped to the waist, Heenan was reported to have commented, "We have a fine morning for our business." And Sayers replied, "If a man can't fight and win on such a crisp morning, then he can't fight at all." So like I said, this was obviously a big deal as these trains were brought up from London, especially for this fight. And this wasn't exactly happening in primetime hours. The fight kicked off at 7:29 in the morning. And these two guys fought for 2 hours and 27 minutes.
Were there any rounds? Were there rounds, or was it just straight time?
There were rounds.
Okay.
They were battered and bloody and were preparing to come out for the 43rd round.
Oh, my God.
When police finally stormed the ring and brought the fight to an end, with the crowd, the fighters, everybody scattering, to escape arrest. I can't imagine the Prince of Wales had to scatter very far, but everyone else had to run pretty good. So there was a reporter there from Bell's Life, which was Britain's leading sporting newspaper at the time, and this is what he wrote about the end of the fight. He wrote, "The final round was merely a wild scramble. Both men ordered to desist from fighting. Heenan rushed away from the ring and ran some distance with the activity of a deer. Although he was fit as ever, he was quite obviously totally blind. Sayers, although tired, was strong on his pins and probably could have fought some time longer. In the end, they ended up declaring the fight a draw, and both men were paid £200 sterling for their pains. Neither one of them ever fought again, and both died in their 30s. Jeez. They went 42 rounds. And again, we're in the beginning the 43rd when the cops stormed the ring. And just for your information, using our super accurate Talkin fight maths again, 200 pounds in 1860 would work out to approximately 24,478 pounds in today's money, or $33,493 US, or if you're or 42,656 of your finest loonies. So you think you can go 42? So either one of you guys think you can go 42 rounds for 42 grand? That's $1,000 a round.
Yeah, I'm down.
Unbelievable.
Give me the opponent.
How many rounds do you think you would go, Mikey, for $1,000 a round? How long do you think you're gonna last?
I only need one round, then that mother is getting knocked right the hell out, man. Trust me, one round he's going down, buddy. I ain't standing around there dancing for hours. I'm just gonna put him out quick. I don't have the stamina. I can go around. I'm good. Better
not at your age.
No.
Yeah.
Shut up. At my age. Yeah, I guess so. 40.
Yeah, what's your conditioning got to be like to go 42 rounds?
Swinging swords in the medieval times, apparently.
Yeah. I think my favorite part of that was, Hearn having run some distance like a deer was obviously totally blind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just heard cops are here and just kind of picked a direction.
Darting. Yeah,
man, like cockroaches scattering when the lights turn on.
Yeah.
Again, I can't imagine the royalty had to scatter too far, but everybody else, trying not to get arrested.
No, that's hilarious, man.
Did you say that it was bare knuckle as well?
Yeah,
it was. Yes.
God, that's shocking.
Can you imagine how swollen their faces were going to be the next day?
I'm surprised
they must have been just ballooned out like this.
Again, running blind. So that day.
Yeah, that day he was blind.
Yeah, but now you got to think, guys. Like I don't know anything about bare knuckle fighting, but you got to think like, but when you're going to break your hand if you unload with the same power as you would like a pro boxer wearing gloves. Like you're gonna break your hand, no doubt about it, right? It's all. It's gonna you must have to not pull punches, but you're not using the power that you're using a reduced amount of power when you're punching. You must do, because you couldn't unless your hands are conditioned like iron or something. But
back
they probably were, for starters. But I mean, you also got to assume you're going to work the body a fair amount. You can throw all the power you want into the ribs and the midsection still at that point. But you could break your knuckles on somebody's jaw.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, right on their forehead.
Well, because who was it we had on, one of the women boxers, and she said she broke her hand even with the gloves on.
Oh yeah, no, that's a common thing. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens pretty often. It happens more than you know. And these boxers,
imagine just wearing this like nothing, right?
Yeah, you'd have to have conditioned hands for sure.
Yeah,
you'd have to be conditioned. Their knuckles probably look like like cauliflower. Like a big bushel of cauliflower is what your knuckles look like.
Yeah,
big fat sausage finger hands, nasty swollen knuckles. Oh man, they look like they're walking around like apes on their hands.
When we had Scotty Olson on the Neil the Deal show, he was actually telling us how often he'd break his hand and continue fighting, not knowing that his hand was broken.
Yep.
Well, they're that classic boxers break,
you're taped up pretty tight at the time. Yeah, it's going to hurt, but you're not going to realize that everything's shifted around until that tape comes off. But once the wraps come off, that's when all of a sudden you're like, oh no, that's not right.
Starts falling up.
Yeah, that's where your knuckles back here.
Yeah.
As soon as you take the compression away, the swelling's just gonna.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that was an interesting history lesson there, Christian.
Yeah, thanks. That was good.
We were talking rounds the other day, and I wonder what's one of the longer ones we can come across there. And then I came across 42 rounds. And I thought, this is a great story.
Oh, it's great. It's great. And the fact that they only fought for like 20 grand in today's money, that's.
Yeah.
It was 20 grand in pounds. That's pounds sterling, but 40 grand Canadian.
40 grand Canadian. Yeah. Okay.
No, still,
That's not bad for back in the day, right?
Yeah. Hey, out of curiosity, when did they legalize boxing?
It wasn't that it was that it was bare knuckle, which was illegal.
Yeah, but back then, let's be real, man. The gloves were only like 4 ounces anyway.
Well, I mean, they were leather stuffed with hay.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any kind of
Horsehair.
probably horsehair. Actually, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And maybe a couple of rocks from out in the garden.
And they actually.
Well, that's where the Marcus of Queensberry rules come in, which we covered on one of our first episodes. There was covered the gloves had to be new gloves if it was a proper match.
Yeah.
And had to be inspected.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Apparently, you can
guys like you from waiting their gloves.
Yeah. But you can still you can still have gloves that are custom made, like with horsehair, with different material, right? There's rules around it, but there's not a lot of rules around it.
I mean, my Instagram feed gets bombarded with ads every day for these, like this company selling like vintage leather boxing gloves and like old school leather speed bags and heavy bags. And they look like the old brown leather, look very much like Cinderella Man gloves. You guys don't get these ads in your Instagram feeds?
Nope.
Sure do.
How? Yeah, okay, there we go.
No. I get a lot of female boxers in my Instagram feed.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm saying like the stuff they're trying to sell me. They're trying to sell me vintage leather goods. That's all, all boxing stuff.
What have you been looking for vintage leather?
No, I haven't. But you know what? I'm tempted though.
Oh, you just pick up that truck under your bed and pull out those ones.
Just stop at the word leather.
Yeah.
Moving along.
Anyways, Mike, do you want to start it off and talk a little bit about how Eddie Hearn from Matchroom was talking about getting rid of all the sanctioning bodies?
Definitely.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. I actually can't believe that I stumbled upon that.
Yeah.
But so Eddie Hearn wants to get rid of sanctioning in boxing altogether because he believes that in a time like this, they're losing out on money. A lot of money can be made by the promoters and fighters if they can replace it or permanently remove the sanctioning bodies.
That's right.
They would have to have some new way of rating the fighters because it would be a mess without a ranking system and champions. But they feel that they're losing money because they're not getting the fights that they want, the big draws, and then the fact that you have to pay each sanctioning body a fee, which maxed out at $300,000 per sanctioning body per title fight.
I think it's 3% and $300,000 max out, right?
$300,000 max out. So when you look at it and you're putting up the 4 belts, that's $1.2 million aside, right?
Yeah, that's 15% of the purse, right? If you do all 5 belts, right? If you throw in the IBO and all that, right? Then
so he believes that with fights like, for instance, we have the Tyson Fury, the Deontay Wilder, that contract feud, right?
Right.
Where we all know that it's not getting honored, it's been pushed aside. The fight that everybody wants to see is the two Brits go at it to see who the best in the world is at heavyweight to not just unify but undisputed heavyweight champ. Everybody wants to see that match. Now that match, wasn't supposed to happen because contracts get honored. You have to fight the next up and coming contender.
Mandatories, right? The mandatories get in the way. Like I think. Who is it for the WBO? It's Usyk is in the way, right?
Yes.
And so they have to either pay out Usyk or he has to vacate the belt.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's I don't know about you, but it kind of brings up a broader conversation about how messed up boxing actually really is, like the back end workings of it. In my opinion, and I want you guys to chime in, but I think it's a bit of a disaster. And I think it's all rigged towards everybody else making money except the boxers.
It's true, even though they do make major paydays, right? But
they got to get to that elite level to get there. Right?
Once you get to that elite level, right? And, for instance, like I've mentioned on some other shows, and we've talked about it before, like, boxers that are not big money draws, right? That they're trying to put these big champions against. And, that's where the money really comes out of the fighter's pocket, and they're losing because, it's not a big money draw. You're not going to get $100 million payday, but say $10 million payday, but you got to pay up 3% of your money.
Yeah.
That's huge, man. So
but check this out though. Think about this too. So you got this. So you're a boxer, you're starting out from scratch. Maybe you win Golden Gloves and you're making your way through and you're doing well. You're not getting paid a penny for any of this from the get-go. It's unlike other sports where you have a salary, like even a base salary. You have nothing. Like they're fighting for free, basically. They just fight on the purse, and the purse might be like $800. You might make like $10,000 in a year as a boxer up and coming. Like you might make peanuts. And then out of that, normally the trainer gets paid 10%.
Yeah.
And then in the state of Nevada, like the manager can probably earn anywhere up to 1/3 of the purse, which is 33%. So now you're at 43%.
Yeah.
And the sanctioning body is going to take 3% on that as well. And then if you figure, if you're in the champ level, you got like 4 or 5 belts, right?
Well, yeah, and then the champions have to deal with the yearly mandatory requirements by the sanctioning bodies, right?
Exactly.
And then frequently the fighters are selected, have no business for a world title, right? So it's kind of ridiculous to And
the messed up part is it's like, who's putting their butt on the line? It's the fighters. I mean, there's a high risk of like being injured very, very badly and having long-term effects in this industry, right? In this sport. And so they're putting their butts on the line, and
definitely. And you know what? It's nice to see that Eddie Hearn is actually speaking out about it, and he has been for a while. He's gone on saying that, he's quoted that it's a critical period.
He's pointing out problems at this point. He hasn't. There's no real solution yet. That's the problem.
There is no real solution yet. And it's
like at this point, he's pointing out problems is what he's doing.
He's pointing out the problems that have been around for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And it's about time that he's decided to step in and let people know these problems. And now he's voicing his concerns and his opinions. And it is a critical time for boxing right now. And having sanctioning bodies doing things like this, even in this time of pandemic, man, like this is a hard time for boxing to make money. So the fact that you have to give out so much money to these sanctioning bodies to get these fights is just ludicrous, man. And then we don't get to see the fights that we want to see, right? Then you have guys that depending on who they're supposed to fight, they wait out that age gap, like you'll get a guy who ducks a fighter until he knows that he's old enough to fight these guys instead of getting the fight when we want to see that fight, when it's the big money maker, box office draw.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And it also speaks to like the corruption that exists in boxing. And I think it does exist. I mean, like I encourage everybody and you guys to watch some stuff with a guy I really respect, who's Teddy Atlas. And, if you watch some of his stuff, he's been on Joe Rogan, he's been on a few others. He has his own. He better
get him on here.
Yeah, I know. How nice would that be? But, I mean, I don't think he's the guy. He's been in the boxing industry for so long. He's got nothing to lose, and he's kind of like a little bit of a whistleblower. Like he just tells it how it is. Like he's not going to sugarcoat it. And some of it's really interesting, talking about how managers go to these these sanctioning bodies, and then they'll pay off like say 30 grand to get an ad in, and so that their boxer can get ranked a little bit higher. Like it happens, right? Or or prior to the fight, you've got these big banquet dinners that the promoters are putting on, and guess who's going to it? It's like all the officials for the boxing match. Like it's a messed up system. It needs to be like, and for me, the worst part is that there's no really centralized commissioning body. So in the US, it's like state by state by state, and everything's a little bit different. So like, what I would love to see is if it could almost be sort of like the Olympics, because boxing is a global sport, right?
Definitely.
If you could have a global governing commissioning body, and it's completely separated from the administration of it is separated from the actual boxers and the money.
The IBA did exist, and the Olympics just took away their ability to plan the Olympic because of corruption. Plan the Olympic tournament because of corruption.
There you go. Yeah. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, the International Boxing Association was planning previous tournaments, but I think we covered it. I think it might have been last week. I mentioned it briefly, in passing at least. But yeah, in 2019 they took away the IOC stripped the International Boxing Association of their ability to work in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Currently, the current Olympics are being organized by the head of the Gymnastics Association.
Oh wow!
The boxing.
Well, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, with these.
Well, I mean, he's been working at the Olympics doing tournaments. So they've just been gymnastics, and he's been with the national level since 2009. It should be fine.
Yeah. But yeah, it would be really cool to see, a global, or at least, even if you can't do it, say in like the UK and the States, but a centralized, a centralized
one organization.
body. Yeah, one organization, and have it completely separate from the people making the money. Like the people making the money should not be in charge of like how it's run. Like that doesn't make sense, right?
Right now, the promoter.
Have you never heard of a record label before?
Yeah, exactly.
The promoters like Hearn are putting up all the money to stage the events.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't work out for them because all 4 of the sanctioning bodies are working against them.
Well, totally. And it's going to be all the
Golovkin's last title defense against, I believe it was Zermeta.
Yeah.
Perfect example of a belt holder defending with against a fighter that brought nothing to the table. Like, what was the point of that fight?
Yep, and it's going to be the same with, what was it? Canelo Alvarez is now set up to fight, God, I can never say this guy's name.
And Yildirim.
Yeah, Yildirim. Yeah, exactly.
He's a Turkish boxer.
Yeah, and then Joe Saunders. He's going to walk through both of those guys. That's my opinion anyways, but he's going to walk straight through both of them. What would be a better match is him and Triple G for round 3, that would be the big money maker, and that would be, but I don't know the reasons why they can't strike a deal, but I suspect maybe, I don't know if it has anything to do with the sanctioning bodies, but or mandatories, but to me it's like, what's, cut through it all. Like, let's get to the good fights, right? Like, let's get to the what the people want to see, and what's fair. Like, that's like Golovkin, like we talked about in the past, they had 2 fights, and like a lot of people think maybe, Golovkin got, actually won both of them, and one was a win and one was a draw, and one was the win for Canelo, and another one was a draw. So, I think we want to see the trilogy, and we want to see how it's going to end, and see who comes out on top. And let's face the facts, Golovkin's getting up in age, and like he's not going to have that much more time to fight.
No, and that's another thing, right? Waiting out a fighter's age,
exactly,
right? To beat them, But Alvarez is taking a risk, though. With unification opportunities and major money by facing Yildirim, and I believe it's signed for a 2-fight contract as well.
Something like that, yeah.
And like this guy Yildirim, like, sure he's only 20. I believe he's 29 years old. He's 23 fights, 21 wins, 12 by knockout with 2 losses.
Yeah.
2013 Mediterranean lightweight bronze medalist. Mm-hmm. So like he's fought some big names though. He's fought Anthony Durrell.
Yeah.
Antonio Rodriguez. He fought Canadian Ryan Ford, Derek Edwards. So he's fought some notable guys, but not these big money makers. You know what I mean?
No.
So this is like a big up for him.
Yeah. And then with Billy Joe Saunders, I don't know about you guys, but when you watch him fight, like he's a good, like it's not disputed, he's a good fighter, but he kind of fights to the level of the other and the energy level of the other boxers. He doesn't like step it up and win these like absolutely definitive, like I just don't see it. And like, so if he's going to fight Alvarez, and the experience level too. I mean, what is he? Billy Joe Saunders, like 30-0. He's got a stellar record. That's great. But then what's Canelo? He's up in what, the 6th? Is he in the 50 range?
Like, Canelo is at, I believe he's in the 50. He's 54, 1-2 with 36 knockouts.
Yeah. Like,
right. And this fight is like, this Alvarez and Yildirim fight is set for February 27th at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. So it's a go.
Yeah,
right?
It's a go.
It's already happening. And
and I hate making predictions like
Yildirim's
that.
21-2.
Yeah, he's 21-2.
Yildirim.
Yeah, Yildirim. Yeah, I can't say
Yildirim.
Yildirim.
We'll get it eventually.
Exactly. I hate making predictions because you always end up eating your words. But just like if you think about it, like it only makes sense that these guys are like Alvarez is going to go through these guys, but all it takes is one punch, right? So
exactly. It only ever takes one punch, man. That's why you love combative sports.
Yep, for sure. But yeah, that's, we could go on and talk about how boxing could be reimagined, right? And redone. Because I think it's a mess. Like, it's a mess too, in my mind, for newbies into boxing and trying to navigate that roadmap. It's a like, there used to be like 8 divisions, I think, in boxing years ago. And now it's like 17 different weight classes, each one of them with belts. And then you got like the super belts and the regular belts and the interim belts.
The junior belts.
How many frickin' belts do you need, and how many sanctioning bodies do you need? It's way, way too much. Like, it's way too much to keep track of everything. Like, it needs to be pared down and made a lot simpler. And make it fair for the boxers, and start paying them too. Like, figure out a way that some of them can earn some money.
See, you know who I would have liked to see fight Alvarez this year would have been what's his name, David
Benavidez.
Yeah, David Benavidez.
They've been accusing him of trying to wait Benavidez out. To your point earlier about trying to wait till the guy's old enough. That's they've been accusing him of trying to wait Benavidez out.
They are trying to do it, but the problem is the kid's only 24. You're not going to outweight this kid, man. He's got another 10, 15 years in the game.
I didn't say it was going to work. I was saying that's what they're accusing him of.
Yes, and David Benavidez, has gone on the record saying, I'm the guy to beat Canelo Alvarez, and I believe he is, man. I back this kid 100%, man. He's 23-0 with 20 knockouts. The kid's vicious, man. Like, you watch his fights, and honestly, I see why Alvarez has been ducking him for so long. It's because he does have the ability to take it. And just like I said when I talked about him in my special, I believe it was the beginning of the week, I talked about this guy, and yeah, man, this kid's a crusher, man. That's a fight that I would like to see this year. Instead of all these crappy fights with Alvarez, fighting these guys that are really going to do nothing for him. And, if he's not going to do the triple with Triple G, then let's put him up against somebody that can actually do something. Let's make him work for his belts this year. Let's stop giving him these little bird fights, man, that mean nothing. That these guys bring nothing to the table.
Yeah,
let's talk.
There's always fingers crossed that you might get a good fight out of an up and comer, though. You never know.
You might, yeah. Know. They always, their heart, man. Their heart's in the game. They're going to try really hard, and when you have an opportunity, in any fight game to step up and fight competition that that's better than you. You're going to try your hardest to win, man, because it puts you at a different level. And
it's like
Benavidez has to fight. He has to start fighting these big name guys. That's the thing. Yep. He's at that point now. He can't wait anymore. He needs these big ticket fights. He's able to fight them. He's proved many, many times that he can control the ring. He can control his opponents. He's not afraid to get in there and grind. And that's the fight that I would love to see for this year would be Alvarez and Benavidez.
Yeah. Well, it's like the guy we had on last week, King Raheem, right? Zahir Raheem. Yeah. And that was a huge upset when he beat Eric Morales, right? Way back, I think it was 2005.
Yeah.
And like just outclassed him completely. I think he won almost every single round, right? And that's why never say never. Never say never to anybody.
No, that's so true.
Yeah.
Graham, you have anything to say?
But it was Morales who got the shot at Pacquiao, right?
Yeah, and then Morales ended up getting. See, that's the unfairness about boxing sometimes. That's the thing is, like, to me, if a guy like Zahir Raheem beats him, then the next choice is then he gets to pick the next guy. Well, not he gets to pick, but whoever the
only problem in that event though was Morales. The Morales and Manny fight was already scheduled. It was already scheduled
because they figured that it was an easy win for Eric Morales against King Raheem, but clearly, Raheem won, right? Like he
came that day to, he brought his game and
absolutely, right? But he should have got the shot he should have at least got a shot at Pacquiao.
His next fight should have been against Pacquiao.
Yeah, it should have been.
Right? You beat the guy that Pacquiao is supposed to face, then you should be the guy to face Pacquiao.
But it's all the politics and how things are set up and the promoters, and it's the whole business of boxing that changes.
The politics, man. It's all about money, right? It's all about selling. It's all about selling subscriptions to pay-per-views, and it's about putting money, people in the seats, and it's about the bets that go across, all of Vegas. That's real. It's all about money. Man.
It was built by committee. The whole thing was built by committee. There was no one single driving thought that put this whole thing together. It's a bunch of people all trying to protect their own paychecks at this point. That's what we're looking at.
Right. Then you have a guy who beats Morales, who is relatively, not as well known as Morales, right? And then he upsets him, and then it's Morales and Pacquiao is still a bigger money draw than, King Raheem versus Pacquiao. So at the end of the day, what are you going to do? You're going to go with the big more money, the money maker, man, because these guys got a lot. They're going to keep their fat pockets even fatter, which is crap.
Yeah, but it's all like you said before, it's all pre-negotiated contracts. It's all contracts, right? So they're obligated by that.
Bodies, man. I back Hearns for this 100%, man.
Yeah. He's got the right idea.
He
but
does.
It doesn't go far enough, right? But yeah, he's talking about what is he? He's saying Matchroom, Top Rank, and Golden Boy should all get together and basically start their own sanctioning body.
Right.
And cut the fees out, and then they can just match up who they need. They can just
then it takes it back to the day. Remember super fights? Super fights 89, 90, 91, 92, the super fights. Yeah. Then we can start having those fights again, right? And we can start having more of them a year instead of just one. The only super fight we're going to see this year, let's be real, is Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. That's going to be the super fight.
Yep.
It's supposed to happen this year. They've already picked a venue. The contracts still need to be drawn up. We're talking $100 million purse to each fighter. This is a big money fight.
And it's huge. Everyone's going to watch it.
Exactly. But how many times do we get to do that a year in boxing? Which is upsetting. And it's all because politics gets in the way, and we don't get to see the fights we want to see, and we don't get to see the fighters fight the fighters we want to see.
Yep. It seems like as the years go on, the fighters fight less and less and less than in the old days, right?
Exactly. Right. Look
at
the day
way more active.
100 fights by the end of their career.
Yeah.
Right. No. Once a guy hits 50 fights, man, nowadays it's
that's a big deal.
That's a big deal. Now, some of these new up and comers, which I've been talking with on my show and bringing out there to the public and showing you guys, some of these kids are in their 20s and already have 35, 40 professional fights. So we're going to see these young kids that are now coming back into the game who they don't care, man. They're ready to fight every week. As long as they can get cleared by a doctor, they're ready to step in the ring and go 12 rounds every friggin' weekend. And they're proving that with their huge amateur fights too, right? In a 3-year amateur career, some of these guys are clocking 200-300 fights in a 3-year amateur career, man. You're fighting every weekend. So these kids are ready to do it. It's just, we got these sanctioning bodies that won't allow these big fights to happen, which is crap.
Yep.
Bull crap.
But can they fight 42 rounds though? Right?
No, real, man. Not nowadays, right? 42 rounds back then. It was two guys that left the bar and stood outside.
And again, that was a draw at 42 rounds, and it's because the cops broke up the 43rd.
But it would be interesting to look at the stats if they even had them from back then, from the illegal bare knuckle fights. How many guys died in the ring? It must have been just all the time, right? Man. The human body can't take that,
Well, it wasn't usually, again, until we get talking about the Marcus of Queensberry stuff, which is really what becomes the introduction of the concept of amateur boxing as we know it today. Before that, it wasn't exactly the toffs. It wasn't the very small middle class that existed at the time. That wasn't who was fighting. It was the same as it had always been, Roman gladiators and stuff like that. There was, the rich and the affluent up here watching the plebs beat the hell out of each other down here. It's someone died in a boxing match. Oh, well, anyway, where shall we have lunch?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have really back at that point when we're especially, if you're talking. Some of the matches we've talked about, some of the bouts have been in the 1700s that we've talked about. They wouldn't have cared at all about a boxer dying in the ring because the boxer would have been a non-person to them, to most people.
Yeah, it would have been some drunk in the bar who decided to, make a couple of shillings so he could eat.
Sometimes, and we talk, some of the warm-up acts, they'd put prostitutes in the ring and get them to fight topless. for money to warm the crowd up beforehand. So
oh my God!
Yeah,
Put a couple of
Something's never changed.
that's why the Mary Stokes fight was so important. That they advertised in the paper that she would be fighting. They took her whole wardrobe, what she would be wearing, and it did mention she would be fully clothed, as was her opponent, and that was a big deal because it separated them from the prostitutes fighting as a warm-up act, and differentiated them into being actual athletes. This was the reason you were coming out, was to see these girls fight
and see if they'll do it.
Well, you know what? You can. I can't imagine it'd be online long before everybody would come after you. And I'm not even talking FCC types. I just mean women in general. Just mostly, they'll find you.
Yeah, of course they will.
Yeah. So with respect to what Eddie Hearn was saying, the only complexity in what he was saying is there has to be a separation of church and state, because you can't be a manager and a promoter,
right?
And guys like Eddie Hearn have to decide what side of the fence they're on, and that's the one complexity I see in what he was saying.
Well, I believe if he gets rid of the sanctioning bodies, he's gonna go towards more his promoting, because that's where he's gonna make his money, right?
Yeah.
Because he's crying now that they're putting up all the money but not making any back because of all the sanctioning bodies. So, if he's got to decide which side of the fence he wants to be on, I believe he would go fully promoting. Like, he would just be promotions, because that's where he'd be making his most money. I think
that's fine, but that's where you need like some sort of a national or global commissioning body that sets out all the rules, sets out the regulations.
Someone to keep you honest.
You need a policeman. You need someone to police this, right?
And hope the hell it doesn't turn into FIFA.
It should be the World Boxing Organization, the WBO. The WBO should be the one guiding body over all of boxing across the world. That's why it is the World Boxing Organization.
But I mean, again, though, I mentioned it in jokingly, but it bears repeating here. You don't want it to turn into FIFA. I mean, where you've got this world governing body for sport. And then, of course, everyone's trying to figure out how to protect their paychecks. They're trying to figure out how to get paid. And eventually it just falls apart from the inside with corruption.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
It's hard. It's hard because especially on a world level, because then you have to, look how complicated it is in the States. You've already mentioned that. It's done state to state, right? So then now put country to country and then region to region within that country kind of thing. So it's a monumental task.
Yeah.
They should start working on it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I believe it, man. I believe we should get rid of have one organization to go over it all, but they got to start somewhere, and they got to start doing something.
And I don't know what it is, but I feel like if it was, basketball, baseball, soccer, like that, there's a bit more of I don't know what it is, but it's like boxing is like, well, that's a bunch of people. It's a brutal sport, and it just gets pushed to the wayside, right? It doesn't have that. It doesn't garner the attention of the public, right? And the outcry isn't there that things need to change.
Well, because most people, they're watching the super fights you guys were just talking about, and that's a lot of people. That's their only real exposure to boxing. Is the big names that they've heard before, the Tysons of the world, the Floyd Mayweathers, like that's the only names that they can associate with boxing. Mm-hmm. So, well, again, except for every 4 years, 5 in this case, because COVID sucks. Olympics come around and everyone pretends that they care about amateur sport as a whole for a couple of weeks. So boxing gets a little bit of a boost every time that comes around. Yeah, and we get to see some up and coming future pros.
Yeah. And if you take a look at the bigger picture, I mean, if you're looking at cultivating a new audience for boxing, because boxing is becoming exciting once again, you have to take away this confusion that exists. If you're a new young fan to the sport of boxing, and you don't get all these different belts and all these different organizations, or you don't get it, like all you want to know is, who's the best of the best of the best in each division, let's say.
Yeah, and you. Absolutely. You want it like a pyramid, right? You want it where people, it's like, you got to work your way up and you get to the pinnacle and reduce the amount of weight, like the weight classes. Holy smokes.
And hang on, is his belt worth more than his belt?
Well, that's it. And like they just need to like, even if they were like, let's just say, even if they were to keep all the sanctioning bodies, at least get rid of like the super belt versus the regular belt versus inter belt. Like, there's too many. Like that alone would clean things up a little bit. But they got to do it like there has to be a roadmap, and it's like every year you got to kind of like mix it up and start fixing it.
There's too many belts, man. Just like professional wrestling.
It's crazy. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your interim champion, your hardcore champion, your Money in the Bank champion. Like, what the hell is this crap? It's the same thing we're getting right now in boxing. This title, that title, interim title, junior title, world title. Like, you know what? Just make a title for the weight class. Let's see these guys bang it out. Let's see the best guy in that class put the damn belt on his waist and be done with it.
Yeah, but that's where the sanctioning bodies are cleaning up. They're raking in their money because they keep creating these like super belts and regular belts, and like every belt.
And idiots like us watch it and talk about it.
Yeah, 3%. Yeah.
So the problem is their system works.
It does. Yeah. It does.
For them, not for us, but it is working for them.
It's nice to see that somebody's speaking up about it, though, man, because it's been a long time coming. And, but it's just nice to see that it's now news and it's now all across the world, and it's something that people are talking about. And you know what? I'm glad we're talking about it because it's a big concern, man, for the future of boxing.
I think that like everybody recognizes that the WBC is like that's like the legit like sanctioning body, right? The WBC belt is what everybody wants, right? And that's what like most boxers like strive for that. So WBC, and I don't know how they would go about doing it, but they should swallow up the other ones and just go with one. You just got one, right? You just need one.
Yeah, that's it.
What did the NBA do back in the 70s? There used to be more than one professional basketball league. They amalgamated a bunch of stuff together, didn't they?
Well, that's it. Like, we should look back
to figure out how they did that.
Yeah, didn't Will Ferrell do a movie on that called Semi-Pro?
I think he might have. I can't say I've seen it, but I think you're right.
Yeah.
Because it was like the American Basketball League or something like that. Yeah.
Is anyone else following the Adrien Broner story?
Yes, a little bit.
What do you think? You think he'll come back? You think he'll be allowed to?
I don't know. It's tough. I'd like to see him come back. I don't know if he's allowed to. It's really up in the air right now, right?
So what's going on? Because Adrien Broner was set to fight Pedro Campa, right, on the 13th, and they've been scrambling to find a fighter for him because the guy in the Pedro Campa camp or team came down with COVID, right, and they backed out. I haven't been following it, so I don't know if they found anybody or not. I should Google it quickly.
Well, Adrien Broner led Showtime tripleheader moves to February 20th. So, turn the ring, won't conflict against. Yeah, well, it looks like he is coming back.
Is he welterweight?
33-4-1 with 24 knockouts. You can't,
Yeah, he started out super featherweight. Then he went to light welterweight. Now he's fighting welterweight.
Yeah. He's set to return
as he's bringing up,
and it won't conflict with Joe Smith Jr. versus Maxim Vlasov and Joseph Diaz Jr. or Remkov on February 13th. But Daniel Raffel reports it will now conflict with the Floyd Mayweather, Logan Paul, and Miguel Burchlet and Oscar Valdez on February 20th. So there's going to be some conflicts, but yes, he is returning. I'd like to see what's going to happen, man.
We'll see. I mean, he's.
Why would you schedule that? Like, this is the confusion again. Why would they schedule that on the same day, on February 20th? Because they have to know that the Logan Paul thing is going to draw a lot of eyes.
See, exactly. That's.
So why would you schedule that on the same day, even if it's a ridiculous thing to watch and a ridiculous thing to be happening? It's going to pull a lot of eyes away from what otherwise would be a legitimate fight.
Right. Yeah. Well, also don't forget though,
I don't see the sense in it.
Mayweather does put on a good promotion. He's got a good team behind him. He's got young fighters that come out of his camp, so he always puts on a good show. So it's going to be hard to compete against a Money Mayweather production. So it's absolutely ridiculous that they even tried to schedule it at the same time. It's sad
I mean,
because
TiVo exists for a reason. We'll be okay at the end of the day if they do these both at the same time. But I can't get the mindset behind scheduling that at the same time as a Floyd Mayweather fight.
But is it on the same card or is it separate?
separate. They're separate promotions, I believe.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's my point. It's not like, oh, we're going to watch this one, then the next. It's which channel do you want to watch right now?
So it's literally not on the same card. They're two separate promoters.
Yeah, it's two separate promotions. So
Huh.
you're going to compete. You're going to compete against Money Mayweather, who's like his
Now you
promotion.
understand my confusion.
Yeah, it's complete confusion, man. It's
But I don't even know. Like, does Broner even what's the purse on this one, right? Because when you think about it, he's lost against Pacquiao, Garcia, Porter, and he's had quite a few. Marcos Medina.
Yeah, he's
fought all the big most of the big names in the welterweight division, and he's losing. So he needs to
But he's held multiple world championships in 4 different weight classes, including the WBO Junior from 2011 to 2012, the WBC lightweight from 2012 to 2013. Then he held the WBA from welterweight title from 2013.
They just noted it. He's been off, I think, for 25 months, and they just need to hand select the guys that he needs a couple of good wins behind him to bring his confidence level back up, and then he'll take another kick at the can at one of the bigger names in the welterweight division. And if
he's gonna have to put in 2 to 3, he's gonna have to put in 2 to 3 meaningless fights.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, to get him back to big names and big money.
And then when he goes back to the big names, big money, he's probably got one more shot. And if he doesn't do it, then forget it, right?
Like let's be real, man. He's not young. He's near the end of his career. He's 31 years old. Like, how many more years is he going to go in the ring, right? Some of these fighters, we're not all, they're not all Manny's. Manny's 42, 44 years old now. The guy's still in the ring, but not everybody.
Mike, it's your birthday today, isn't it? Remind us, how old are you now?
Yeah. Shut up over there, guy in the box.
Today is your birthday, is it not?
Today, right now.
Happy birthday, Michael.
Thank you.
So we're talking about guys stepping into the ring at certain ages. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm just crazy though. I'll do it anyway.
Okay.
I'll step in the ring right now. It don't even matter. I wouldn't even warm up. I'll just get in there. Oh man, turning 40, isn't it great, guys? Oh, you wouldn't know, Christian?
No, I'm not there yet.
Oh yeah, you're still the little baby in the corner.
Oh yeah.
All right. On that note,
all right.
So, are we wrapped?
Yeah, I think we're wrapped.
That's it.
I think that was a good Friday discussion, gentlemen.
Yep.
All our fans that are watching, yes, make sure you tune in next time. Jab that like, hook, subscribe, knock out those comments. Remember, guys,